A Moldovan influencer named Anna, who had a large fan base on social media, was accused of brutally killing her mother. Despite her father's wealth and her glamorous online image, Anna had fallen into drug addiction and bad company. Her mother tried to get her into rehab, but Anna refused and eventually attacked her mother with a kitchen knife, stabbing her multiple times and removing her organs while she was still alive. Anna was found not criminally responsible due to her mental state and was interned in a high-security psychiatric hospital. The case raises questions about the responsibility of mentally ill individuals for their actions and the dark reality that can lurk behind glamorous social media images. The kitchen table was stained with blood and a motionless figure was draped over it. The victim, who happened to be the mother of the drug-addicted perpetrator, who would stop at nothing to evade going to rehab. At the age of 21, Anna, a young Moldovan woman, had dreamed of becoming an influencer like many other girls her age. Unfortunately, everything changed one day when the aspiring influencer was accused of committing a real massacre, allegedly stabbing her mother and tearing out her heart with her bare hands. Greetings to everyone, I hope you are doing well. This case takes us into the realm of sheer terror. Anna, who dreamed of fame on social media, committed one of the most heinous crimes known to the country, a particularly shocking story that will not leave you indifferent. But I will not reveal any more details, and I invite you to discover together all the facts of this sad event. Anna was born in 1999 in Comrat, Moldova, specifically in the capital of Gagauzia, an autonomous region in the southern part of the country. Her father, Vasily Aladov, was not an ordinary man. He was a wealthy landowner who owned several poultry farms. Along with her brother, Vasily, Anna's father was born on September 4, 1979. In addition to being an entrepreneur, economist, and jurist, he was the director of Aladdin Agro. He was an influential and very controversial figure. In 2019, the businessman had run for governor, but his candidacy was eventually rejected due to irregularities in the signature lists. He was a troubled and aggressive man who, for example, did not hesitate to physically threaten his rival during the campaign. He was a very provocative character who had made obscene remarks on local television several times. He had also repeatedly cursed the members of the Gagauzia Election Commission, publicly threatening them by saying, "I assure you, they will end up badly, their loved ones will catch incurable STDs and AIDS." But let's go back a little further to the late 90s. Vasily was just of legal age when he met a medical student who was almost 21 years old. They fell in love and the young couple quickly started a family. However, they eventually separated, and Vasily started a new life on his own. He remarried and had a son. We do not know what role Anna's father played in her upbringing, but thanks to her parents' situation, the young woman led a very comfortable lifestyle. Just as she became an adult, her mother left Moldova to work in Germany. Anna did not follow her and stayed in her home country, but she did not live with her father. She was very independent from a young age and had her own apartment. At 21, the young woman was a medical student at a Russian school, following in the footsteps of her mother, with whom she had been very close. She had been a girl who didn't make waves, and her professors had been pleased with her work and dedication to her studies. However, despite her desire to become a doctor, like many young girls at the time, Anna had dreamed of celebrities and glitter. She wanted to be an influencer. She had an Instagram account and had posted many photos of herself, showcasing her travels, physical appearance, and outfits. She had placed great importance on her appearance and hadn't hesitated to undergo some cosmetic surgery to conform even more to the beauty standards highlighted on social networks. Thanks to her father's money, she had traveled across Europe, visiting Paris, Milan, and taking photos of herself in front of luxury brands. She had sold a glamorous life, a dream life of luxury and beauty. Her Instagram account had gradually gained some notoriety, and she had managed to accumulate nearly 100,000 subscribers. However, behind this glamorous image sold on social networks, a much darker reality had been hidden. Anna had enjoyed great independence for her young age. She had lived alone and had taken advantage of her father's fortune without any parental control. She hadn't taken long to fall to the dark side, because behind this image of a dream life between exclusive parties, travels, and luxury hotels, there had often been all kinds of temptations such as drug abuse, alcohol, and bad company. Anna had fallen into these traps. In reality, she had led a very unstable lifestyle. For a year, she had fallen into drugs and alcohol, consuming them regularly. When she was younger, she had been very close to her mother, but now she lived alone. She had no parents with her. Her father had moved on with his life and had been busy with his affairs, and her mother had lived and worked abroad. She hadn't realized her daughter's problems immediately. Unfortunately, when she discovered that her daughter was using drugs, it was too late. Living alone, Anna did what she wanted when she wanted. In November 2020, Anna had overdosed during a party and the emergency services had been called. She ended up in the hospital, and her mother had taken notice of her daughter's addiction problems. She knew that Anna had always had a particular relationship with alcohol, consumed a lot of it, and she had even sent her to a psychologist when she was younger to try to help her overcome this addiction. But she had been unaware that Anna had also been using drugs regularly. After this overdose, Praskovia, her mother, was very worried. She had been concerned about her daughter's health, safety, and future. She had then decided to return to Moldova to help her daughter get out of what she had thought was a bad phase. The situation had been clear. She had to have a serious conversation with her daughter and consider finding her a place in a clinic for detoxification. All that had been left was to convince Anna. So, she took a flight and arrived in Moldova on December 11, 2020. She arrived on the same day at 6:26 p.m. at her daughter's apartment, where she found her under the influence of alcohol and drugs. When she saw her daughter drunk and drugged, she reprimanded her, and the conversation quickly turned into an argument, but Praskovia had not given up. Her daughter was on a bad path. She had been hanging out with harmful people, and she wanted to help her. She was not able to let Anna ruin her life like this. She had a bright future ahead of her. She was a medical student, and she could not have accepted that she had succumbed to all her addictions. Moreover, as she had told before, Anna had been hospitalized for an overdose. For Praskovia, there was only one thing to do. Her daughter had to go into detoxification. But Anna had refused to listen. It had been out of the question for her to go into treatment. She could handle the situation herself. The conversation had become more and more intense between the two women, but Praskovia had held on. She had been determined not to give up, and she had left her daughter with no choice. She had been going to do everything to get her into treatment. Anna had been beside herself with anger. Had it been the mixture of drugs and alcohol that had made her even more furious? In any case, she had grabbed a kitchen knife and attacked her mother. She had stabbed her several times, and Praskovia had no time to understand what was happening. She had fallen to the ground, seriously injured and bleeding heavily. Anna had just committed the irreparable with incredible violence. However, the story had been about to take an even more dramatic and horrible turn as her mother had lain dying on the ground. Anna had begun to open her chest with her knife. The horror had been at its peak, but Anna wasn't finished. Praskovia had still been alive when her daughter had begun to tear out her heart. Anna, with her medical knowledge, had actually cut out and removed her mother's heart while she was still alive. She had also removed her mother's lungs and intestines and discarded her mother's organs in the trash. The scene was extremely violent, and Anna showed no remorse or regret as she was covered in her mother's blood, whom she had given birth to. She left the body on the apartment floor and took a shower before going out to meet her boyfriend. Anna washed, dressed up, and styled her hair as if nothing had happened. She left the apartment, leaving her mother's mutilated body on the floor, and went to her boyfriend's place where they spent the evening drinking champagne. Suddenly, Anna revealed to him the crime she had just committed, and her boyfriend, thinking she was joking, kept his questions to himself and continued the evening. Anna eventually fell asleep, and her boyfriend, still awake, decided to go to her apartment to find out the truth. When he arrived, he found a nightmarish scene. Anna had indeed killed her mother, and her body lay on the ground in a pool of blood. Horrified, he immediately called the police and told them everything. The police arrived at the crime scene 2 hours later at 10:13 and were shocked by the brutality of the crime. Anna's mother's heart, lungs, and intestines were found in the trash bin. Anna's boyfriend told the police everything, and they had enough evidence to arrest Anna for the murder of her mother. When the police went to arrest her, she was not there, but was found 72 hours later at a friend's house. She was immediately placed in preventive detention for 30 days. Anna was the only suspect in the crime, but investigators continued to push the investigation to understand the savagery of the crime. However, Anna had seriously mutilated her mother. She had even torn out her heart while her mother had still been alive. This act had been incomprehensible to the investigators, especially since, according to the family, the two women had been quite close. When news of the murder had spread in the media, everyone had been in shock. The region and the country had never experienced such a barbaric crime before. It had been difficult to believe that a young girl with no criminal record, who had not been known to be violent, could commit such a crime. For her neighbors, she had been a smiling girl without a history, and they had found it hard to believe that she could have killed her mother. Of course, there had been screams and calls for help coming from her apartment, but no one had dared to call the police. They thought it had been just a simple argument that could happen to anyone, refusing to believe that seemingly harmless young women could commit such an atrocity. Many had also questioned her father, a controversial figure known for his violent tendencies. Did he have something to do with this crime? He had many enemies. Had it been a settling of scores or an intimidation against him? Multiple hypotheses had emerged. Anna, due to her drug use and addictions, had certainly known about drug trafficking. Did she owe money to some people who had taken revenge in the most horrible way? Although it had been hard to believe, the investigation had revealed that no one else had been involved in this crime. Furthermore, her father had had an alibi at the time of the murder. For your information, today her father is in prison with his associate, his brother, for extortion and embezzlement, among other things. After her arrest, Anna had refused to cooperate with law enforcement and exhibited bizarre and inappropriate behavior while in prison. When she was summoned before the judge for her arraignment, she had again behaved in a totally inappropriate, incoherent, and bizarre manner. She had shown a total lack of interest in what was happening around her, lying down on the defendant's bench, and was more preoccupied with her nails. On that day, there had been many journalists present, and on several occasions, she had turned to them, even making the victory sign at the end of the hearing. She had stood up on the bench, and when a journalist had asked her why she had killed her mother, she giggled and replied as if she were a celebrity, saying goodbye. After the hearing, Anna's lawyers sought to have her declared incompetent to stand trial, absolving her of criminal responsibility. After undergoing several psychiatric evaluations, they succeeded in their efforts. The judge declared her not criminally responsible for her actions, as she had been unable to follow criminal proceedings. According to the judge, Anna posed a danger to both herself and society, so she was interned in a high-security psychiatric hospital in September 2021. Since her arrest, Anna had not seemed to realize the gravity of her actions and had expressed no remorse or emotion. However, many people did not believe her insanity defense. Some still wondered if during her hearing, she had simulated madness to avoid prison. Surprisingly, her Instagram account had gained nearly 5,000 followers after this terrible event before being permanently deleted. She who had dreamed of glory and fame was now known as the monster of Moldova. This story reminds us once again that behind the glamorous image that some influencers portrayed on social media, there was sometimes a much darker reality. Anna seemed to be a promising young influencer who had all the elements of those girls who sold their plastic dreams on social networks. Thanks to the money from her parents, she had traveled and frequented the most exclusive places. What is sad is that young people and adults identify with those considered role models without really knowing who they are, as evidenced by this horrible murder of Anna's own mother. Obviously, Anna must have been a very disturbed young woman. She was found criminally irresponsible, but the conclusions of the psychiatric reports were not disclosed. In France, as in many other countries around the world, it is considered immoral to judge those who are mentally unbalanced, regardless of the heinous acts they commit. So long as the murderers are extremely manipulative and can appear non-responsible for their actions, they avoid prison and are placed under the care of doctors and centers. It is highly likely that these murderers may eventually receive permission to leave or, worse yet, be released when they are finally healed a few years after their crime. On my end, I believe that the mentally ill should still be judged, especially when committing such horrible acts. While they may not be in full control of their actions, they still need to be held accountable for them. However, they should also receive proper mental health care and treatment, and everything should be done to try to reintegrate them into society. In cases like Anna's, pleading insanity may be a valid defense, but it is important to ensure that justice is still served for the victim and their family. What is particularly shocking to me in this story is not so much the attack on the mother during a dispute. This happens more frequently than one might think, and she was under the influence of drugs and alcohol, which could explain why she lost control and attacked her mother, but rather the fact that while her mother was still alive, Anna had opened her stomach to rip out her heart and organs. It was terrible, but who could do such a horrible thing to someone, especially to someone as close as their own mother? And her behavior just after this heinous crime, she joined her boyfriend as if nothing had happened, was simply incredible and frightening. My thoughts go out to Praskovia, who did not deserve this. She only wished for her daughter to get better. I hope that today, Anna's mother is resting in peace. As a final word, I say goodbye, and above all, take care of those who are dear to you. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to follow for more crime stories.